Used to live in Homewood. Grew up there, as a matter of fact. I've been back in 25 years. Yeah, that's walking distance.
Man, does he deliver that line so smooth. Yeah, that's walking distance. And we get a nostalgia trip, where a man goes back to the hometown that he grew up in, finds himself transported back in time. This episode takes place in 1960. And when he walks into his old town, it's 25 years prior, so 1935. Back when he was a kid. This is Season 1, Episode 5, Walking Distance. Rod Serling, who wrote this episode, of course, once commented that every writer has his own special preoccupations and predilections. For me, it's a hunger to be young again. A desperate hunger to go back to where it all began. And that's why he does these small-town nostalgic trips so well. There's no huge twists or turns or really any science fiction or horror in this one. It's simply a man going back 25 years prior. His name's Martin Sloan, and he's played by Gig Young, who's in movies like The Tunnel of Love, That Touch of Mink, and They Shoot Horses, Don't They? He does a decent job, but the script has him act a bit like a buffoon. He spends most of the episode shocked over and over again that it's actually 1935 and not 1960, when you would think he would catch on a little earlier. The first thing he notices is when he goes to order what he calls a soda, but it's an ice cream float, that it costs a nickel instead of what it cost in 1960, 35 cents. He then asks about some people around town who have passed away and finds out that they're actually still living. He then goes to a park and sees that nothing in this town has changed in these 25 years since he's left. The bandstand's still the same. It has a nice merry-go-round. Maybe parks in the 1930s were better than they are now, because I have some parks around me and they don't have working merry-go-rounds. There's not ice cream vendors. And Rod Serling, not Sterling, who would ever say that? Rod Serling also mentioned that this park that he goes to was based on a park that he used to go to as a youth that also had a merry-go-round. He sees a vision of his old self carving his name, Martin Sloan, into the bandstand, and then he goes to meet his parents. And the only flaw I can really say in this episode, because I think it's a really great one, is he just doesn't catch on very quickly. We as the viewer know immediately he's back in 1935. He's been transported back in time, but he just continually refuses to accept this and meets his parents and tries to convince them that he's their young son, Martin Sloan. And of course they think he's a creep and shut the door on him. Then he sees a car that's from the 1930s. The guy who owns the car says it's a brand new one, and he knows it's not a brand new one. So this goes on throughout the episode. But they do a good job of painting this small town. You see several locations from the ice cream shop to this park, and it really comes off as an idealistic, safe suburb. And we get the reveal towards the end of what this episode is really about. And it's a great message.
Maybe when you go back, Martin, you'll find that there are merry-go-rounds and band concerts where you are. Maybe you haven't been looking in the right place. You've been looking behind you, Martin. Try looking ahead.
Now this statement really stood out to me. Martin Sloan himself is getting too involved in nostalgia. And the guy just points out, well, if you want to go to a park, why don't you just go to a park? If you want to go to a merry-go-round, might be kind of weird for a guy like Martin, who's 37, to go to a merry-go-round, but whatever, go to a merry-go-round. You can never go back to the past, but you can relive certain small instances of your childhood. Martin also talks about how he not only likes ice cream floats, but cotton candy. So, okay, go buy some cotton candy. And I think this is very well written and very true, since nostalgia can be a bit of a trap. If you constantly want to go back to the past, that means your current, present, or future is not looking very bright. This person is simply making the point that you can still do all that stuff now and move forward with your life. Now, I think Martin's character could have been developed a bit better, since we don't learn that much about him. It seems like his current life is not going very well, but we're not exactly sure why. We know he lives in New York City and he has a decent job, but what is going so wrong with his current life that he wants to go back in time? We're not exactly sure. Is he having trouble with his girl? Is he actually in debt? We're not sure. And I think it's easy to be nostalgic about childhood, but as this guy says, your best days should be ahead of you, not in the past. Could you imagine going back to the past before internet? Oh no. And as I've been covering shows, a lot of them that are nostalgic, I also like watching the new ones as well. And remember, if you're an adult and you want to go buy some cotton candy, you do it. Personally, I really like arcades, and for a while I would avoid them, because it looks kind of weird if I'm just wandering around an arcade. So I try to go with some friends, but if they're not around, I would usually not go by myself. But then a few years ago I thought, you know what, who cares? If I want to go to Dave & Buster's, I'll go to Dave & Buster's. And it seems like Walking Distance is making the same point. look towards the future, and if you want to relive certain things of your past, go to a park like Martin Sloan that you miss, go to that park. Want to eat cotton candy? Go eat cotton candy. Want to play a PS1 video game? Go do that. But always remember to move forward. So I think Walking Distance is a great episode. It's going to get an 8 out of 10. And Rod Serling got what he always wanted. The park he used to go to was Recreation Park in Binghamton, New York. And in 2024, last year, they placed a statue of Rod Serling right in the park to commemorate not only his legacy, but this episode. Walking Distance is one of the more popular Twilight Zone episodes, and it's easy to see why. It not only has a good message, but is able to capture that small town vibe that Rod Serling is so good at writing about. And once Martin Sloan admits to himself that he has a lot to live for, he gets transported back to 1960. Actually, it might be 1959, but we'll just round up to 1960. Ice cream floats cost 35 cents again. And he has a bum leg since when he went to play on this merry-go-round, he started chasing his former self around. It's a bit of a weird scene. So he walks back to where his car is being serviced by the mechanic. And everything is back to normal. Yay. Also, this episode features Rod Howard as one of the kids, because of course it does. Let's read a nostalgic review. 10 out of 10, going home again. You know the saying, you can't go home again? Martin Sloan actually does. Walking Distance is one of the finest episodes in the entire series. I believe this is one Serling adores, and you can tell so much about Serling from his writings. He poses an interesting question here. If you go back in time and meet yourself as a child, what would you say? That is a question that is posed. However, if you're Martin Sloan, apparently you just chase your former self around a merry-go-round and fall down. He didn't seem to recognize himself as a kid immediately, which is weird, and he didn't give him really any great advice except for that he should cherish what he has. I would tell myself as a kid to invest in Bitcoin. Get Bitcoin right now. I doubt anyone's answer would be the same, although Martin's would be a popular one. There's a story of a man trying to escape the pressures of his life by going home again. I also have had fantasies such as this. What is it about our childhood that is so sacred? I assume someone with a happy childhood would like it revisited for hedonistic reasons. Because when you're a child, you feel free, and even if your conditions suck, you don't know your conditions suck, so you sleep on the floor and you're like, this rules. I made a fort. My dad didn't have a bed for like 4 years, so he bought this really cheap cot, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Looking back on it, he just bought me a cot. I don't know why I thought that was cool. People who had depressing childhoods would go back with more of a purpose, maybe to correct those things that would cause hardship in the future. You know, what this person's writing is correct, and is a reason I'm not giving this episode a 9 or a 10. He doesn't do anything to correct any mistakes of his childhood. Nothing really happens because he's just confused the entire time. So having something, let's say his parents end up dying in a car crash in a few years because they try to drive to a lake house. You could tell them, don't go to that lake house. Or he could try to affect the world from 25 years ago. That would have been more interesting. Martin Sloan realized he's not that little boy anymore, but all of us carry with us that inner child. What a brilliant piece of work. Next up is episode 6. Escape Clause, about a man who cannot die. It reminds me a lot of Groundhog Day, since he can't die, but he likes lighting himself on fire and jumping in front of cars. It's interesting. And check out our playlist for the other series that we've covered. Monsters, Fear Itself, Tales from the Dark Side, Mystery Science Theater 3000, Black Mirror, Pet Shop of Horrors, and Cowboy Bebop. Thanks a lot.